as we are moments away from Game 2 of Vitality versus SK Gaming. And once again, SK demonstrate a resilience and an ability to bounce back from an early game deficit. To be frank, SK's early games suck, but I do think it is crucial to remember that Vitality's team composition was always going to be more challenging, more difficult to execute in the later stages of the game. And unfortunately for them, they didn't manage to find those picks, find those kills that would unlock more towers.
Which is surprising, because I think Vitality have actually been really good at generally playing the map. But when we actually look at the way they played that mid game, it was really messy. I could understand why they were trying to force things so heavily, because it was like, okay, well, eventually Jax is going to be able to just like chip away bit by bit at Gangplank's tower. He'll be able to get control there. When you look at the way that the rest of the map is set up as well, Cassiopeia going to come online. Zeri going to be massive when she gets that Infinity Edge. So you definitely, with the Sylas and the Elise, feel pressure to try and have this big mid game, but just that overextension and topside, trying to commit for the tier 2 tower, gave SK the time they needed to right the ship and get to that 3-item Paris point.
The thing that I'm seeing in SK's multiple group stage games is a unwavering confidence and stability, and I think you have to give them credit for how well they do play defensively, how well they play when they are in a deficit. And now this time around, can they once again look to improve their early game? And for Vitality, I personally would like to see a slightly simpler to execute team composition. Keep it simple, and then whatever the next word is. And now in terms of draft, it's the Sejuani Maokai, Lucian banned away, as well as the Karma and Ashe.
I think you have to ban the Elise here, just because, yes, you can go for the Jace ban again here for SK Gaming, but I think it'd be a bit of a mistake to get Bo that across and then not really have a decent answer in either the Vi or the Wukong that are probably going to be the next big picks, especially the Vi for Bo has been a very, very standout pick. Although, with Zeri being taken away for Neon here, Markoon could actually just eye up the Vi for himself. It's a really good pick into the Zeri, good early game control, and Irrelevant already hovering the Jax. Had a great performance on it last game, and Photon didn't really look like he had an answer to it.
No, he didn't, and I think for Neon, now a little bit more pressure to stand up and to deliver. This will be his first Zeri game of Winter, and Exakick instantly locks in the Draven. When I take a look at his total games played, 5 of them, and he has won 3. The Markoon will deny the Vi. He's picked up the Vi. Now we've got Karthus in the jungle, I assume.
Yeah, gonna have Perkz piloting the Tristana, you got the Karthus in the jungle. So again, we've kind of seen whenever Vitality's backs are against the wall, they've defaulted back towards farming junglers for a Bo, so he can step up and be a carry. But you kind of traditionally expect it to be with something where, okay, I don't have to try and play for my lanes, but Zeri up against Draven, Neon and Kaiser are going to need help in this bottom side, and the triple threat with this Vi for SK is going to be incredibly strong. So I think you're looking at these more engage oriented supports now, things like the Nautilus, these kind of things to go into this bottom side and try and set up Exakick for success for SK.
That Tristana in the middle lane, blind picking that as well. I'm presuming that's how it's going to play.
It didn't go great last time, to be perfectly honest.
It did not, and that's the thing I'm intrigued to see. Also, picking it blind when you know you're going to be running into that Draven, into the Vi. I think the fact the rocket jump can at least pull the Vi closer to you, assuming Markoon decides to prioritize him or focus him. But I do think it's also important to remember, can control the wave, can obviously push very hard, buy some time for Bo to farm up on that Karthus.
The big thing though for Vitality is you now need a front line. It's not like you're going to run the Kindred, it's like you need both your support and your top laner to be quite tanky. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Photon go towards something like a Sion here. Yes, you basically give run of the top lane over towards Irrelevant, but having this strong front line is so damn important for Vitality to make this composition work. But again, Karthus, not exactly a jungler that likes having lanes that are going to be losing, so bot lane already gone, seeding topside as well. It does open up Markoon to take over a lot of this map in the early stages.
Let's take a look at this phase 2 bans. Gragas and Gangplank taken away from SK, and 2 more supports in the form of Soraka and Renata removed for Vitality. The Renata's an interesting one to me as well when you consider that's obviously a more reactive counter-attack style of support champion. So it signals to me Vitality are going to look to lock in 2 more champions that want to step forward, jump into your face with the Zeri as well as that Tristana. And I do have to start thinking and looking at how these comps are going to play out. So Ahri is now locked in, and give me a second to look through all the previous games here for Sertuss.
Yeah, the big thing for Ahri here is more so just having control over this mid lane, where not so much in you should be able to get a ton of push, but keeping yourself safe, being able to use that Spirit Rush to avoid the all-in the Perkz is going to be going for a lot. And again, just kind of give over that bit of control to make sure that you're then able to set up in the later portion of the game. Also giving a ton of extra help towards what's already a very dive-heavy composition for SK, with Vi, Jax, and Ahri all being able to lend themselves into getting onto the back line, which at the moment is already incredibly vulnerable. But with the Cassandra and the Leona, that two big beefy frontliners we're looking for, does lend itself to Vitality with a strong team fight.
So very, very clear indication of what Vitality want to do this game. Start fights, go forward, and crush SK. In terms of the response, you also have a number of champions that want to be on the front foot, another potential bloodbath on the horizon, as DOS will lock in that Rakan. So just a quick update here, quick stat for Sertuss. He's only played 2 games ever on Ahri, won 1, lost 1. How the hell do you interpret these compositions?
I mean, for SK, it's I'm going forward. Whatever happens, happens. We will let someone else take the wheel, because I don't know what the hell else you're supposed to do if you fall behind on this composition, especially when you look at the bottom 4 on the map. But when you look across Vitality, they're more so a case of, okay, if we can bypass what is the 2-item spike, the 1-item spike, honestly, for Exakick on SK side, then you can actually look towards that late game scaling with a double AD carry composition, 2 big beefy frontliners, and that massive amount of AP damage that Karthus can bring to the table as well.
Do you think it's fair to say that there's more scaling or more late game options on the side of Vitality here?
Yeah, it's not even close. It's so heavily that if you get to late game, Vitality win. If SK get off the bat early and demolish with Draven, they win. That's it. That's the win cons.
Remind me, what does SK Gaming look like in the laning phase in the early game?
I don't want to. That's just, look, you're going to take all the excitement out of it if you do that.
There has to be some expectations. There has to be some challenges. And for SK, I think then even more pressure on the side of Markoon, or frankly speaking, even these laners, because there are tools to look for individual kills just within the respective kits. If Sertuss can sneak a charm onto that Tristana from Perkz, there is enough burst damage once he hits 6 to look for the all-in.
Yeah, I think a huge amount of it, though, for Markoon is, again, playing around Exakick and DOS. It's worked before. It's the winning formula. Can it win them this series here?
Can it win them the series? That is the question. SK Gaming, one of the big surprises of Winter, just consistently being a thorn in the side of anyone who was expected to win. And all the cheering and chanting here in Berlin is from the Vitality fans who are hoping that they can take us to game 3.
And this would be so disappointing for Vitality if they couldn't. They'll have to see those dots trying to move in, get vision down, but just absorb the stun from Kaiser to get that vision.
Charm will not connect, and Perkz and Neon at least threatening stepping forward. While that is going on, Photon and Bo inside the river. They were staring down Irrelevant. And those little skittles and the lay wastes should be able to get some chip damage secured. So I think, Dagda, let's look at the junglers, where they're starting. Do you think that Markoon will have a sort of somewhat predictable or easier lane to set up a play for?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you've got decent control over top side. Exakick and DOS should have control over bot. The only downside to opting into the Rakan, into the Leona, is that Leona can do quite a bit of work against the Rakan in the early stages, but when you've got the Draven involved, that kind of changes the dynamic here, where you should be able to go far more aggressive here, and if you catch on to Neon, try and look to burst them out, especially with Markoon. I imagine maybe level 4, level 5, trying to move down into this bot side and get that big win for Exakick.
Especially to try cash in on those Draven stacks. In the previous game, Kaiser and Neon were playing very forward. We're playing very aggressive with that Alistar support. A little bit more challenging until Leona's got the full kit available to her. And as expected, early laning here, Perkz is going to be shoving all the way into Sertuss. And the other 2 lanes for SK doing the opposites.
And I think a huge amount of this game does rely on Perkz here. He is the guy who has the definitive winning lane. He's the one that can push in against Sertuss. He's the one who can start to run them around the map. And especially for a guy who missed out on playoffs last bit, this has to be the moment that Vitality step up. This is the roster that everyone is expecting to them, have them pop off with, but they have to do it here now. One loss away from being knocked out.
Also, against SK, who did take them down during the regular season, Vitality started off so incredibly strong, and then started to get a little bit more, I think inconsistent might be the word I'm going to look for towards the end of the regular season. SK, on the other hand, started to ramp up, started to scale, and I think you've always got to remember this Karthus will have a gigantic ability to impact the map with that Requiem. When you consider the damage that can come out from every single one of those lanes, and he's already making his way down to this bottom lane. Kaiser level 2. Zenith Blade looking for a target. Will connect onto DOS, rooted in place, and will dance his way to safety. Those lay waste chipping out Exakick and DOS.
I mean, yes, he gets some damage down, but it's not really anything to write home about. You've got the pop that's going to go for Exakick. He'll be able to get back on track. And Markoon is actually the one that's going to farm his way through this topside scuttle as well, even putting pressure onto Photon in the top end. So not really much gained there, but Bo should be able to get bottom crab and reset.
All right, here comes Markoon. Has the potential to jump onto Photon, but there is a lot of minions available. Need to make sure they get that damage down quickly enough before the army turns it back. Charges up the Q, the blows are dented, the flash is there to secure first blood for SK Gaming.
And the wave was just in a terrible spot for Photon. He needed to crash the wave, but with his jungler showing on bot side, Markoon immediately goes in onto the top end of the map. So nice job by SK, and Markoon once more to get this bot side going in their favor.
2 games in a row where the top is the absolute focus. First gank from Markoon works out. Had to commit the flash for it, but that is huge because Irrelevance Jax had a significant impact on game number 1. Was able to stay relevant in the team fights and also be able to push those side lanes, buying some time for SK.
And this is just difficult for Photon. Like, you need to get this wave crashed, or it's very easy for Irrelevant to clean out some of these low health minions, set up a freeze, reset, and it just, then you're in a terrible spot as Photon, but unfortunately wasn't able to get the crash, and blowing his flash as well is going to leave him even more vulnerable on this top side.
You saw Markoon showing his face in the river there towards the bottom lane, potentially looking at Neon and Kaiser, who are pushing that wave very far forward, but I think Bo set up a number of wards, so vision was available to them, and Photon trading aggressively there in the top lane. So even CS numbers across the board. 5 minutes in, it's SK with a small advantage, and DOS will get caught out by that Shield of Daybreak. The Zenith Blade throws Kaiser forward. He's already used that Ignite, and DOS holding on to all sums, so they will be able to just back away. Potential for more, but Vitality not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, a bit of a risky backing spot for DOS will walk away, but you're going to get the reset here anyway. They'd already crashed that wave, so at the moment with the Relevant, even holding off on that reset until now as well, he's going to be able to make his way back in top, and this is where you'll start to see SK putting more of the hurt down, right? You've got the Noon Quiver for Exakick. Irrelevant's going to be able to pick up that Sheen. These quick trades are going to go more in favor of the Jax, and at least Markoon will be spotted out in this ward, so Photon will know to stay safe at the moment, but this is definitely not the start you wanted for Vitality.
I mean, this might be the best 6 minutes of early game that I've seen from SK in weeks. Managed to find that kill. They're going even in their respective lanes. And Photon will be able to get some backup in a moment or two. If you look at the minimap, Bo as well as Kaiser making their way north. Perkz as well inside the river. So top lane is the focus. Top lane is where the action is going to continue.
Immediately though, the ward spots them out. Even the fail over the wall for Kaiser, not exactly the best, but this is going to give a ton of information to SK that you can go hyper aggressive onto Neon bot side.
Yeah, Neon gets standard aside. We'll be able to just dash over the wall thanks to that spark, and the rest of Vitality now not going to be able to find any advantages in that top lane, but signaling they want to continue applying pressure, trying to unlock Photon.
And it's not even that you can really help Photon here. He has got a decent wave state here where he can actually clear it out and be not too far away from his tower, but because you all showed on top, SK get the reset, immediately go for the dragon. You've got Sertuss who's now able to move from mid as well with that push, so SK doing a nice job of utilizing the fact that they've seen Vitality often, honestly, in this game, right? Bo shows bot, immediately play top. Bo shows top, immediately play on the bottom side. SK are doing a really good job cross-mapping.
And I think in game 1, we didn't quite see enough of that, or there were opportunities where potentially SK could have looked for a cross-map and were unable to do so. This time, as soon as they are able to secure that dragon, go back into lane, and just remind everybody of how far behind SK were. 14 minutes, 4,000 gold. 20 minutes, 6,000 gold, and 25 minutes, 8K down. And they were able to bounce back. This time, I think if they do fall behind, compositionally speaking, it'll be significantly harder to find that opportunity, find a way to come back into the game. All of a sudden, things are going well. Small lead, and Bo has hit level 6. He's got the ultimate available to him, potentially making his way top.
I think this is the problem, though. You know that a huge amount of the focus from SK is more than likely moving up towards this Rift Herald as well. They push on bot, so Bo is trying to sneak this before you get that control from Exakick and Dust on the bottom side. But Markoon is already here. Pushing mid for Perkz, though, means he should be able to support Bo, and it looks like they can sneak this away before SK can get the cavalry to arrive.
Kaiser's also going to be able to join, but Sertuss as well as DOS stepping forward, and the Rift Herald may just reset, loses patience, runs back into its pit. 3 members of Vitality trying to look for a target. Keep your eyes on Kaiser. Keep your eyes on that Leona E. 4 members of SK go forward. The Charm does not find its target, but DOS does! The damage is massive and Bo is killed. Now DOS runs away for his life and Perkz down to 100. Requiem should not hit any kills, and Irrelevant jumps onto Kaiser. Flash still available to him. But SK clearly get the kill, turn around, and they're looking for the Heralds.
There is no world where you want to fight that as Vitality. Photon can't get across to try and help you out because he's been pushed in by Irrelevant, and you're a Karthus, a Tristana, and a Leona at this stage. You don't have a tanky frontline to match against the level 6 Markoon has, and you see it perfectly there. SK destroy them in the fight and get everything that they want.
Fantastic teamwork and communication here from SK. And of course, jumping on the 3 members of Vitality caught inside the little choke, it makes it so much easier.
I mean, it's 4 versus 3. I mean, Photon, this is not on Photon. Photon cannot get here. He was pushed in. So I don't know why Vitality are trying to fight. We said, this is the team that wants to scale. You're still giving Rift Herald. You're just adding more gold into the pocket of SK as well.
And it's a little bit reminiscent of that top lane inner turret dive from game 1, where several members of Vitality start the engagement, but Perkz just wasn't there. It wasn't close enough to get involved. So ultimately, Vitality come away worse for wear. They're down 1,000 gold. The Rift Herald is in the back pocket of Markoon, potentially able to set up a plate gank and accelerate that gold lead further. But Perkz does pick up a couple plates there in that middle lane. So we'll be able to keep Vitality within touching distance. But I think, again and again, we're seeing Vitality just not exactly playing on the same page and not exactly making the right decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the fact that Bo had to show on bot side to try and help out Kaiser and Neon really did come back to bite them, because it gave that early success to the top side, which then now leads into that early success in the skirmish as well for SK and Rift Herald. And I think the fact that Perkz has been trying to get control over mid and then link with Bo was a nice idea for Rift Herald, but once it goes south, just forget about it, move away. But this overcommitment from Vitality now is going to come back to bite them. And this isn't even the case of, oh, we've given that resources now to the Draven. Exakick still has an opportunity to cash out. He can still add his lot to the gold lead that's popping up for SK.
So SK now looking to set up another attempt. Markoon's level 8, the flash and the ultimate available to him. Photon's underneath his tower. And we need to see how well SK can look to advance their gold lead as well as play the mid game. This is not a situation that we've seen them in many times in the past, and on the verge of knocking Vitality out, on the verge of making it to playoffs. So Sertuss will connect with the Charm. And SK on the verge of doing something they haven't done in years, making it to playoffs and finals weekend.
I mean, great job here from SK, though, to get this vision on the top side. They're going to be able to spot out exactly what's happening and where the pathing is. So they can go for plays like this for...
Yeah, Photon's going to use the all-out, knocks Irrelevant underneath his tower, but there's not enough damage there, Dagda. It fizzled as we both held our breath, waiting to see what would happen. Shelly's dropped in that middle lane, will balance out those plates picked up, and exactly a same situation as far as the mid lane towers are concerned.
I do think, though, you probably could have used that bot side to try and get this Draven a little bit more ahead. Like, at the end of the day, yes, Irrelevant will have some good scaling, but your main source of damage in this mid game is going to be the Draven, so you really need to get some opportunity for SK to visit this bottom side. Now, with Dragon up, maybe you can get a kill here for Exakick, get him to cash in, but, I mean, you've lost control of the mid lane because the Herald timing on that play was actually slightly off, and now Vitality are in.
They are indeed. So is Markoon. Throws out the ultimate, and that's already Bo taken down. We'll be able to channel that Requiem, but there's such high health bars. It doesn't matter. SK pull the trigger, SK jump onto Vitality, and SK will pick up the next dragon.
Yeah, that 5-0 is looking mighty like a 2-0 right now for SK, because this has been mistakes from Vitality throughout the early stages that SK are capitalizing on. 3 kills now in the mid lane. You've got the cash in for Exakick as well, and I mean, why are you face checking this? Again, you don't have anyone that's particularly tanky. Kaiser needs to prop this W to actually get any sort of shield there, and Kaiser immediately goes down to Exakick. You're running the Glacial Augment as well, which means you're not actually getting the extra resistances from Aftershock. Like, you just don't have the tanky stats to deal with what SK have right now.
So at 13 minutes, with a 4,000 gold lead and 2 dragons, that feels to me like a significant enough of an advantage that this team composition can now play that mid game on the front foot, push this lead further. But the thing is, for me, is if they are unable to convert that lead into a significant control of Summoner's Rift, the scaling and the time is always going to be a ticking time bomb.
And this is why I love the fact we've got this early dragon prioritization from SK. 2 dragons already in 13 minutes. You're going to be looking at 12 or 22 minutes into the game that you'll have this 4th dragon up and available as long as SK are able to keep this pace. And that's exactly when you're going to be hitting second items for Draven. You're going to have this Shadow Flame completed for Sertuss in the mid lane as well. That's exactly the timing you want to play around. And SK, as long as they don't let that foot off the pedal, they should be good.
Well, stepping forward there as Exakick chucks out the spinning axes, the observers, highlighting how much vision SK have inside of Vitality's jungle. This is what is allowing them to push both the mid lane as well as that bottom lane. Members of SK look to secure the first tower of the game, and all of a sudden Irrelevant is under some pressure down bottom. Kaiser is level 6, got access to that solar flare. I don't know if they're going to consider throwing everything at Irrelevance.
I mean, how can you? I mean, Irrelevance just playing so close underneath their tower. There's little that you can really do to answer to this. So I just don't know what Vitality are trying to achieve. It feels like they're just letting objectives go on the map in the hope they can cross-map it, but there's just nothing there for them to actually go for.
No, the 2 times they have tried to set a play up around the Rift Herald and around the Dragon, it was SK that punished. It was SK that had a stronger response. And that is exactly in line with how SK have won their last few games. They have responded and replied to what every single opponent has thrown at them, including being in deficits and still finding wins.
And it kind of feels like that curse of playoffs is still there for Vitality, right? Perkz doesn't manage to make it in summer. You look towards Neon in summer with Misfits, immediately loses both those best of 5s and gets dropped out. Kaiser the same with Mad Lions. Like, this team has not had success when it comes to the best ofs, and we're starting to see it once more.
Yeah, and of course, all of a sudden, SK in a significant lead. Exakick has been sitting on that Mythic for a while, interrupted Neon's back several times. Irrelevant's got no mana left with that final leap strike. Flash forward from Irrelevant, will throw down the smite, continues to burn out, and lay waste after lay waste. Flash still available for Irrelevant. Needs to dodge the Skittles. Will be forced to flash this time round, but with the E from Perkz, there's not enough damage. The Red Grip should just about finish it. No! What? There's not enough damage! There's not! With the burn! The burnage! He survives! He survives! 8 hit points for Irrelevant!
That was so well played by Irrelevant. The fancy footwork keeps him alive, and now Vitality will get this tower on bot side. You can see you've got members of SK sitting in the wings, but won't be able to get in to make the play, but nicely done by Irrelevant to get away from that.
I mean, he survives with his life. Bo's ultimates still haven't found a kill. 0-2-0 on that Karthus, whereas Sertuss with the Ahri, 3-0-1, frankly, was just gifted many of those kills. Had an even laning phase with Perkz, and for SK, they've been very happy to receive the kills. Exakick sitting on 120 stacks on that Draven. We're a minute until the next dragon spawns, and you can already see SK starting to push this mid lane forward. Exakick's going to push the bottom lane, and I want to see how much vision they can set up, because Irrelevant as well as Sertuss have got teleports available.
I mean, the fact you've got all this vision set up around this bottom side makes it very easy for SK to start to move in here. The Dragon should be easily going towards them. Markoon just trying to play keep away from the rest of the team, and even with the vision in, or the wave in mid lane as well, it's so easy for SK now to take that mid tier 2 if they really want to. Everyone on Vitality's gone to the top side.
And exactly like we've seen from Vitality many times in the past, prioritizing sort of the towers or the lanes over the neutral objectives. They will take that top lane tower as SK reply in the mid. And Dagda with 30 seconds until the Dragon spawns. Both teams, you feel, will be stepping forward, but not before. Photon gets chunked out just a little. Markoon will throw down the Herald, and we got a 5v5 on the cards.
Vitality really want to try and find this fight. They've reset, SK haven't.
Oh, DOS gets burned down for now, forced to dance to safety. That slow wall won't tag anybody yet. The laser chips away at DOS, maybe forced to flash, and he does so. Sertuss over the wall, can use the charm. Irrelevant is still pushing the top lane. Cross map available for SK.
Nice timing window from Vitality. SK had stayed on the map for so long that they hadn't got time to buy. Exakick could have had a second item completed, but now Vitality get to keep SK at bay, and they should be able to get this dragon.
Do they overchase? Do they overchase? Vitality splits up. 3 members looking for Exakick. He's used the claims already. Flash is available, and that's Kaiser interrupted as the stand aside is used. Now Photon putting some chip damage onto Markoon, and it's a fight inside the blue buff, but it's Kaiser taken out by Exakick. Perkz forced to cleanse away, running for his life as the cease and desist sends Vitality packing. SK Gaming are in absolute control.
You called it, Quickshot. The over chase from Vitality. They just needed the dragon. They just needed to back away. But the greed in their eyes comes back to bite them, and SK will get a third dragon.
Another game where you can see instances of either chaotic decision-making or splitting up, and Vitality just get punished for going too deep.
If they had immediately turned over towards this dragon, it would have been fine. But because they don't, Bo gets caught out through great teamwork between the mid-jungle and SK, and Irrelevant then with that TP cuts off the retreat for Vitality. Everything on Vitality is scattered, it's messy, and SK use that to their advantage.
Secure their third dragon. They exceed, they build that gold lead to 7,000. And look at the faces of SK, and itemization, damage, absolutely everything is in their favor. We're not even 20 minutes into the game, and SK have generated such an advantageous position. But it does get harder from here. You have to go deeper into Vitality's territory, and now SK have to demonstrate that discipline and that control we've seen from them when they've had to come back from early game deficits.
And the thing is, Vitality are the #1 seed. This is supposed to be the favor coming in, but this is where you got to give the shout out to SK. This is a bunch of rookies that have come in and only improved week on week. They finished in third. We're right up until that last day battling for that first place spot, but right now, they are looking to make sure that they can move on into playoffs and showing why they deserve to be recognized here.
Dagda, you know I'm the old man on the broadcast. I think the last time SK were in the top 4 of the LEC was maybe in Cologne days, or...
Summer 2015 was the last time they were top 4.
Summer of 2015. SK Gaming on the verge of making it to playoffs weekend, which starts next Friday. Getting themselves in the position to challenge again, put themselves right at the top of the table, and I think surprising a lot of fans and viewers at home, who I think may have been leaning a little bit towards Vitality as the favorite. But we've heard from so many teams, from so many players, that SK are legit, and they are consistently a threat in all of their scrims.
I'm just sad I had to make enemies with people in the crowd to be right. It's tough sometimes, you know?
Well, it is tough, but it's tough being right, and Bo gets chunked down. Sertuss is facing off 3 members. The rest of SK can look for a dive. Neon gonna group up as well, and Kasante, Photon, teleport available to him. He's pushing bottom. Irrelevant pushing mid lane, and this tower is the focus. Whirling Death chips away. Bo is gonna get stand aside, force the flash forward, trying to look for DOS. Requiem's available to him, starts to channel it up. It's a fight to multiple fronts as SK Gaming find themselves one onto Neon in the top lane, turn their attention to Kaiser, and DOS survives as well. This Requiem has done nothing for Vitality, as all of a sudden Photon will be taken down as well.
I just want one front-to-back team fight for Vitality, but we're never gonna get it. They're trying to defend a tier 1 in top lane, and that gives SK the Baron. This is a disaster from Vitality.
A masterclass from SK Gaming that has started from Markoon's gank in the top lane, and then punishing every decision Vitality has made.
And I love that we're getting a chance for Irrelevant to shine. This guy has been doing so much work throughout the regular split to try and become that big carry on this team when it comes to the top side. When he's able to bring out things like the Jax, it looks like it's back to his meta when we're looking at things like the Scion. And this flank here is perfect from him. Vitality are already forced to try and take a fight because Irrelevant is in the perfect place at the perfect time with a double counter strike to cut cut off any opportunity Vitality had of trying to turn that one around.
And I keep, again, going back to the draft, asking those questions. The Elise in game 1, the Karthus in game 2, the challenging ways of starting fights and coordinating, it's just more difficult to execute. So for Vitality, not only is it harder from the get-go, they're also not demonstrating or convincing me they're 100% on the same page. The mid lane inhibitors already secured. Baron buff, 13,000 gold. The Dagda, SK on the brink of making it to playoffs, the brink of rejoining the top 4 in Europe for the first time in 8 years. And they might want to finish it on this push. They've got Baron apart minions pushing onto the Nexus turret.
not there.
And there goes Sertuss, throws out the Orbital Deception, the Whirling Death 2. No Requiem for Bo. Not going to be able to get into the fray, and the minions now going to be able to push forward onto the turrets. Vitality, how do you start the fight? Where do you go forward? Sertuss keeps throwing out those Qs off the Qs, and the minions are being cleared.
The Zenith play goes wide, so they have to try and wait again. Now you get the channel going forward from Markoon.
Markoon goes all the way forward. Bo is knocked up, knocked down, and killed. And Sertuss is the focus from Vitality, but the re-engage once more from Irrelevant. They're able to do it. This is it for SK. They've been able to take down Vitality. They turn their attention to the Nexus turrets, and it is a 2 versus 4. It's not enough. There's nothing left. SK Gaming have taken down Vitality and made it to playoffs.
The rookies, the new players on SK have big smiles on their faces because that was a fantastic performance from this team. A team that has less than 4 years of experience in the LEC across every single player has managed to take down some of the longest standing players the LEC has.
For me, it's consistency from SK. What I think I've seen from their games is a stability and the same level of approach across so many levels that has allowed them to take down many opponents. Today, in this game though, that's the best early game I've seen in a long time.
But it's also that they've turned over a new leaf. It's no longer about, hey, we're just going to hard force bot over. This was them playing through top, Irrelevant taking over, making sure he got this Jax pick, getting to see that he doesn't always have to play that weak side, and what they can do with those leads around Rift Herald skirmishes, looking for far more success in those early stages, particularly in the second game.
So many of these players' individual stories. I think Exakick, the big one that we've been talking about for several weeks. I want to turn your attention to Markoon very briefly. He had some spicy words to say about XL. XL failed to make it to playoffs, and here Markoon stands with this roster, with this squad that were discounted, underestimated, and they've excelled all expectations.
I mean, the fact that this early stage was so damn good for them does give me a lot of hope for as they move on towards that playoff stage. Even the fact that they've been able to fight back so consistently from those deficits as well with these later scaling team fights. This is a team now that is a lot that you have to go up against and see if you can prove your worth.
It is a statement to all the fans and viewers at home. I'm not going to ask all the fans and viewers at home to nominate your player of the series at LEC on Twitter. Markoon, Sertuss, or Exakick. Who do you think deserves it? Exceptional games here from this young roster. They make it to playoffs. They will be competing next weekend. And Vitality are now done for the Winter Split. Once again, failing to make it to playoffs. 3 in a row here for Vitality. We talked about you in the game. Not able to stand up when we get to best offs.
Yeah, this is the big problem though. Again, Kaiser, you look at Perkz, I mean, you look at Neon as well. These are all guys that you think should be able to show up massively, but again, the playoffs is their curse.
They really don't. That does it from Dagda and I. We're going to stand up and talk to a player who did deliver today. Heading over to Trouble and Markoon.
Thank you so much, Quickshot.
Deze kopen.
We have a huge audience for you, Markoon. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm just going to start by saying, just rookies, Markoon jumping from XL to SK. How far can this roster go? Making playoffs that easy. Warm-up game yesterday 2-0. Warm-up game today 2-0. How are you feeling making playoffs again?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty terrific. I mean, I'm just happy, especially in this last game, that we showed that we can also play early games and not just scale with Zeri every game and then win team fights. But yeah, I'm really happy with how we played this series.
Perfect. Now, I talked to Sertuss a little bit earlier and he told me, you know what, it was really cool to have a warm-up series yesterday. How did that impact how you guys played today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really nice that we were able to warm up yesterday, and we also fixed a few issues already from yesterday. So I was just happy And I don't want to disrespect Heretics. Like, I think they were a tough opponent, and they actually made us really sweat for it. So I don't want to disrespect, but yeah, it felt nice that we could warm up, so to say, yeah.
Very nice. And now jumping into this game, of course, Karthus is not something that we see necessarily a lot in this meta. Did that catch you off guard?
No, we've played a lot of scrims against Vitality, and he's picked it multiple times. I mean, I didn't think he would pick it just like this, because I don't think it was the best case for a Karthus, but yeah, it wasn't a big surprise.
Okay, cool. And when it comes to Bo, we usually see a lot of talk around him. He's very aggressive. He plays a lot around the map. He likes to gank early. I mean, the first game was an absolute bloodbath on the top side. How can you keep up with tracking Bo?
I mean, the first game we didn't, right? He got a lot of good ganks off. But for me, I think Bo is just a very good jungler, very solid. But I think with the amount of hype he got when he came in, I don't think he is like this insane jungler that was going to stomp everyone in the LEC. I think he's just very good, but not more than that.
Ooh, spicy. All right, Markoon, you're going to be playing the winner of the next game coming up right after this, Mad versus Astralis. Who do you think is going to take it?
I hope Astralis wins for my boy Finn. But I think
you can beat him?
I can, yeah, so I can beat him. But also I think Mad Lions is going to win. I think they played pretty solid. I think that a close series against G2 that just went a little bit unfortunate for them. But I think overall they will be the better team.
All right, thank you very much, Markoon. Congratulations on making playoffs.
Thank you.
We're going to throw it onto a very quick break, but don't go anywhere because Mad vs Astralis is right after this.
Too late to apologize. Hey guys, stop saying this, please. It was cringe. It's too late. It was so good. Honestly, just hype yourself up. Shut the f up, bro.
Yo, Tristana and Cassandra, no flash.
Look. Give me.
No flash.
Give me. Nice.
Look. Tristana. Alright, there
Nice.
Stop it. Guys, let's not one yet.
Yeah, focus.
I got my stacks.
Good job, guys.
SK Gaming have taken down Vitality and made it to playoffs. The rookies, the new players on SK have big smiles on their faces.